for some major terraforming, although we've got to keep things survival friendly as usual. Now I know I'm going a bit crazy with the terraforming here, but hear me out. We've tackled some biomes so far that are typically super flat, including the plains and the desert. So I thought, why not give you guys some really cool landscape to explore in the jungle? Since I wanted to create a super intricate landscape to really immerse you guys in your jungle adventures, I actually spent 2 weeks making manual edits to this terrain to get it just right, as this was before I learned some of the terrain tools that you'll see me using in later chapters. There will be plenty of secrets to explore, including a custom abandoned mineshaft with its own ores featuring later in this chapter, along with literally dozens of custom caves and dungeons, which will be coming in the finishing touches chapter. I added tons of variety to these mountains and made them very dynamic, decorating them with plenty of caves, rocky overhangs and steep cliffs. To break up the mountain range even further, I mapped out a route for plenty of valleys, rivers and waterfalls that connect back into the ocean surrounding the ultimate survival world. And of course, I made a big stone island for our jungle temple to sit on. Speaking of water, with our landscaping complete, I started filling up our valleys with blue wool, which would eventually become the various rivers and waterfalls of the jungle valley. Now I've used this technique before on the channel, and it's the best possible way to achieve some really nice looking waterfalls and rivers without Minecraft's water physics breaking through and filling up the entire map. To finish off our shiny new jungle landscape, I added grass, moss and plenty of foliage to add a little life to the basic terrain. And as you can see, compared to the size of my character, this place is huge. But it's still very empty, and jungles are typically known for being, well, the complete opposite of that. So to turn our epic landscape into an actual jungle, I created a few variations of palm trees and jungle trees, an assortment of shrubs, plants and bushes to add greenery to the jungle floor, and of course some custom boulders and rocks. Now, I had to start in true Jumanji style and create some giant statues to guard the entrance of what will soon be a legendary ancient city. To give you guys some context, the jaguar was worshipped in Mayan culture, and it's often associated with power, bravery and foresight. Similarly, this jungle civilization built a pair of these powerful figures to not only protect their city, as they worshipped the jaguar for saving them from a horde of giant jungle spiders. The jaguars also encouraged the worthy to tackle the maze, empowered by these symbols of foresight and bravery watching over them. We'll return to this mysterious maze of the jaguar shortly, but with our jaguar statue almost complete, I made a few small tweaks before repositioning it either side of this gap between the mountains. To kick off this ancient city, we need to upgrade the vanilla jungle temple that's going to sit smack bang in the middle of it. Of course, I had to listen to you guys and take inspiration from Mayan, Incan and Aztec architecture for this one. Remember though, these creations aren't meant to be accurate to real life, and if you don't see your favourite cultures or architectural styles in this world, you definitely will when I make the next one. Anyhow, I transformed the original temple, attempting to incorporate a similar style and size. Well, actually this isn't the whole thing, this is just the top of the temple. I guess I lied to you about the size. Since the jungle temple has been tackled in Minecraft so many times before, even by me, I tried to create something unique for this world, incorporating lots of different elements to each layer of the building. So, what did this intricate temple mean to the ancient jungle city? Well, every year, many of the city's people would undertake a perilous pilgrimage across the vast jungle landscape, searching for the 4 elemental protector totems. At each totem, they would leave valuable offerings and perform rituals to preserve the power of the sacred elements, which were essential for the city's survival. After finding earth, wind, fire and water, the pilgrimage would finish at the temple, and those who succeeded were celebrated in a grand ceremony as saviors of the city and were provided with many valuable benefits for the next year. And that wraps up the exterior of our jungle temple transformation. And so, to tie our temple to its equally grand surroundings, I did some terraforming to make some space for the main bridge to the city, creating walkways to connect things up, as well as some more foundations around the base of the temple to support this massive structure. Out the front of the temple, I created this Mayan-inspired statue head that will act as a water duct. I added some streams that filter off through these stone channels and out the mouth of these abstract faces to add a really magical vibe to the temple. For the interior of our giant new jungle temple, I was able to include many walkways, balconies and other areas for you guys to explore with plenty of hidden loot, thanks to the multiple levels of this structure. As you can imagine, this temple was hugely important to our jungle civilization, being fundamental to many of their rituals and ceremonies. It's even rumoured that the Jungle King is buried deep within the temple with his most precious possessions, protected by dozens of booby traps. Also, you may recognise the villager head statues from a previous USW chapter. Given the plethora of sacred artefacts found in our ancient jungle city, there are many tales of adventurers who travelled here, including members of the merchant family from our woodland mansion. In fact, you may have spotted that they had orchestrated a grand heist to steal a sacred statue from the city, which still remains in their mansion to this day. And it's rumoured that this was the source of their bad luck and eventual disappearance. Anyway, with the temple finally complete, I headed back outside and made room for the only way in and out of this city, the Maze of the Jaguar. For this legendary maze, I was inspired by the Labyrinth, famous in Greek mythology for playing host to the monstrous Minotaur. I love combining inspirations from many influences since there are no rules in Minecraft, and it gives me a chance to be as inclusive as possible. This jungle maze was designed to test the bravery of those seeking entrance to the ancient jungle city, and it is said to be enchanted, leading to many unworthy adventurers becoming insane before finding the exit. I wonder if you and your friends are worthy of entering the ancient city. Plus, in the centre of the maze, I incorporated the first of the 4 elemental totems that are hidden across the city. Perhaps you can find them all and discover their secrets. This earth totem was created to keep the ground fertile, bringing the people a good harvest and protecting the land from natural disaster. However, to keep these protections alive, the elemental totems required offerings, hence the pilgrimage undertaken by the jungle folk. Unfortunately, one year, a desperate thief took on the pilgrimage, stealing her offerings from her fellow people in hope that she would enjoy a comfortable life the next year. Her deception tainted the rituals, and the protection provided by the totems for centuries was tarnished. Eventually, the city dwellers could find no fertile land, their water was contaminated, and their hunting ventures always ended in fatalities. The elements were totally against them, and a devastating elemental storm broke out, leaving the entire city abandoned. Now, with all of this talk of an ancient city, I'd better start building it, hadn't I? Remember though, this is all just a supplement to my jungle temple transformation. The actual vanilla village upgrade is totally separate. Anyhow, to start things off, I added a bunch of platforms and additional bridges around the mountainscape to start plotting out the city's foundations. I also added some of the larger infrastructural buildings at this stage, which you can discover when you explore the map yourselves. Just imagine finding this hidden deep within the jungle. This seriously is an adventurous playground. So guys, this particular building is super special. You may recall that the desert and jungle biomes have always had a solid trading relationship. Well, the 2 civilizations created a huge mining network alongside those native to the mesa and the dwarves of the deep dark, with a giant tunnel network connecting their biomes underground to transfer ores and other resources to one another. This building is the grand entrance to the USW's inter-biome mining network, and I can't wait for you guys to explore it for yourselves. Next up on my agenda was to brighten things up a little bit, so I whipped up this huge fire brazier, which rages on to indicate that the unruly elements still curse the land. I then created a couple of standard designs to assist with tackling the large area, including a basic building and pillar design to kick things off. I then placed the fire braziers either side of the jungle valley and a couple of the standard buildings elsewhere, before moving on to plan out where I would place the city's main buildings using my classic red wool technique. And of course, it was then time to populate the city with the smaller buildings where our city folk used to live. In its heyday, this city was self-sufficient, bustling with inhabitants. They had their own military, prison, library, and more. Rather than spoiling all the fun now, I'll let you guys explore them properly for yourselves. Last but not least, I had to add that custom mine I promised you guys, where the jungle sources its valuable 1.17 ores. Now you know why the desert was so keen to have good trade links with the jungle. Anyhow, as you can see, I created a large lift and crane for moving materials around, since the whole city is spread across this mountainscape. I added in an entrance to some custom caves, where the ancient city folk did their mining back in the day. I wonder if there are any shiny 1.17 resources left to be found in here. With the ancient city complete, which was really all just a massive jungle temple transformation with lots of added extras, I placed down the trees and shrubs that we created earlier to bring it to life. And to really add that jungle vibe, I added some giant hanging vines across the whole city. And that just about completes the USW's legendary ancient jungle city. I suppose it's time to move on to the rest of the biome. Scattered around the jungle, I decided to place 3 small temples for you guys to discover. These temples were built by the survivors who fled the ancient city during the elemental storm, restoring their spiritual connection to their gods and helping to ward off the jungle spiders.